Now let's look at some specific examples of a geologic resource and the stuff it gets turned into. So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the common minerals that we can actually find in our households. So maybe all of you are familiar with baby powder. Baby powder is in part made of a mineral called talc. And talc has a low, what is called hardness, and that means that I can scratch it with my fingernail. And they take pieces of talc, 'cause it's so soft, and they put it in baby powder. Another way that minerals are used in our everyday life is some of the food we eat. So salt really makes food taste a lot better, is actually a mineral called halite. And so there are a couple of ways that we get salt into our lives. One way is that we actually make salt from seawater. The other is that we find big rock deposits or mineral deposits of halite, and we mine that to produce the salt that we eat. Sulfur, in this case, this is one of those elements that occurs in native form, so we can actually find mineral deposits that have just sulfur associated with them. And that's used in a variety of things. One of the most common ways it's used is in producing matches. So when you're actually lighting a match and you smell that sulfury smell, that's because you're actually getting sulfur there. One that might be less obvious to you is sandpaper. Maybe you guys don't really mess with sandpaper all that much, but maybe if you go out in the woodshed or the garage, you might find some. Sandpaper is used too in woodworking and a variety of things, and it's used because it's gritty and it can actually smooth things out. The grittiness is coming from quartz, which is a mineral, but also from a mineral called garnet. So that beautiful reddish brown mineral in there is garnet, and they take garnet and they use that to make sandpaper. Another rock that's used is chalk. So chalk is actually a really cool sedimentary rock, and it is formed from millions and billions of these little shells of organisms that live in the ocean. And when they fall to the seafloor, they produce these big deposits, and then we can use that to make chalk, and that's what I use to then write on the board and teach my students about geology. Let's see. We have things like batteries and nails and things like that. All of that is using lead, and that can come from minerals like galena here, and a variety of other pretty exciting and very pretty minerals. The last thing I want to mention before I send you guys off to find minerals and rocks in your everyday life is that not only do we use them to make everyday materials that we're dealing with, but our society runs on the energy produced by the geologic record. So things like, this one's heavy, coal. It's not quite as heavy as you would expect, but it is still heavy. And coal is used in energy plants to produce electricity. We also have the less desirable form, peat here. People used to mine peat from bogs and things like that to be able to burn in their homes to produce heat. We don't really use it nowadays to fuel or as an energy resource in the same way that we used to before we started developing more complicated stuff. The last thing is, of course, petroleum. This is an example of some crude oil from the Illinois basin. So I guess the point is that geology is all around you, and I would like you guys to go out and see if you can find things in your house that are built from geologic resources. If you do, let me know, and we'll try to check those out. Thank you.